source for all your sports betting action. Baseball's in full swing. Football season is literally right around the corner. BetOnline has more ways to stay in the action. Latest odds, news, live in-game betting, MLB, UFC, tennis, NFL futures. BetOnline remains your choice for sports wagering info in between games. Head over to the BetOnline Casino. All top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Head to the website today. Take advantage of their industry-leading VIP programs, level-up bonuses, weekly cash boosts. BetOnline, the game starts here. As we welcome you to another edition of Bleav in Giants, along with Carl Banks, Bob Papa, and as of this recording, it's a Wednesday, and the Giants have a day off. The players have a day off. Coaches never have a day off during training camp. But, Carl, they got two padded practices under their belts, the first two coming on Monday and Tuesday, and certainly love the intensity and the competition that we saw on the football field.
Bob, it was really good, and I have some thoughts. And the fun part about watching in person, and then I was able to get all of the coaches' tape from the one-on-one drills, the team drills, everything, the 7-on-7. So I got a chance to really look at it as if I were in camp and in a meeting room. And there's, I have some insights, but it was really good watching both sides of the football. And, my first observation was, okay, either this offense has gotten better or this defense had better assert itself. And when I said assert itself, like, I'm not telling anyone that's watching or listening here that this defense doesn't have dogs. What I had a problem with the first practice, and I apparently was not alone. If you're going to be the defense that your talent level says you are, and that you believe that you are, you got to play on your terms. And I was just observing the team, period. Now, they weren't getting their asses kicked, but you could feel, I felt, for a first padded practice, the offense kind of played on their terms. Now, they didn't have all the success, but I wanted to see a little more physicality. I wanted to see people going backwards, because to be that type of defense, your first day in practice in pads, you set the tone. You don't wait, right? This is a defense, and I'm saying this a little tongue-in-cheek, folks. They played by the rules. Whatever the rules were that Brian Daboll set for practice, hey, let's thud them up. You know what? You got to break the rules for the first couple plays and get yelled at by the coach, right? You got. If you're a defensive player, you got to break the rules, right? And the reason I say that is because everybody left out of there saying, "Wow, Cam Scatterboo is going to be something." Yes, he is, but just not against our defense. Somebody needed to, just kind of thud him up a little bit, just because it's your defense. It ain't nobody else's defense. You got to thud him up. But there are some really good things I saw.
Now, I'm going to say this. Dexter Lawrence is coming off that elbow injury, so he's not getting necessarily the same amount of reps that, if you were playing a game, he'd be in there, right? Mm-hmm. But you're right. They let Scatterboo have a little bit of a highlight day in those running situations. Now, one of the things about Scatterboo that I very enjoyable, watching him play in college, but I didn't realize how fast he is. He's got some speed to him. But I want to go to the positive part of it. I want to go to the positive part of watching Eluemunor in the one-on-ones Like, he's a pro's pro, man. He knows how to handle himself. And
Yeah.
he seems very comfortable and relaxed out there. I really enjoyed watching Evan Neal. I got to be honest with you. Now, on Tuesday, they lined up Abdul Carter on the inside a few times, and
Yeah.
Evan Neal got worked a little bit, right? But I think for the most part, even in the team stuff, when Evan Neal would get a rep, and I love the fact that he's trying to steal reps in the one-on-ones. He kept jumping in like he was trying to get another rep, and they're like, no, it's not your turn yet.
I got a whole book of this stuff. I took so many notes watching the film yesterday. Let's
share.
go.
Share.
No. When you were talking about the Evan Neal thing, and I said, and it's going to be up to him. But if he has the ability to be an all-pro at guard, literally, when I'm looking at him in his one-on-ones, I draw the analogy. He gets you in a phone booth. And I mean, he's been really good in those one-on-one drills in the pass rush, right? And the only thing I would say to Evan, if he and I were talking, I'm probably going to have this conversation with him. He does not, he has to have, I would like to see him have a lazy inside foot, meaning don't overextend, because that's the only way people are going to try to beat him to the inside. If he's lazy with his inside leg, he can still move it, but don't overextend with it, because if somebody comes back inside, and he did this to Abdul Carter once, Carter tried to get him inside. He kind of held his right foot in, and when Carter went in, he just extended those long arms, and if it were in a real game, he would have pushed him by the center. So he gets you in a phone booth, man, and it's not much you can do. His only thing is just he can't revert back to I'm on an island as a tackle. You're not on an island as a guard. You're basically, it's your phone booth. You get him in there and you do what you want. And he's been super impressive there. Jermaine Eluemunor, like you said, he's a pro's pro. He's a pro's pro. And he does not have an ounce of panic in him at all. He went against Thibodeau. He went against Burns and Carter. He treated them all about the same, in terms of his demeanor. He didn't get, over anxious against any one of those guys. He just played what he saw. He played what they gave him. John Michael Schmitz, one-on-one drills. It's been okay. He's been okay. Good hand placement. He's anchored a bit. Dexter wasn't in there.
Right. I want to see later in camp when he goes against Dexter a little bit. But
he's getting good reps, good quality reps.
Yeah, and so much was made about him getting kind of beaten the first week regularly, and he had some bad practices and all of those stuff. And as we talked about, offensive linemen are at a decided disadvantage when there's no pads on.
Mm-hmm.
But once the pads go on, there's just enough there for them to grab to start to gain some control. When there was no pads on,
right.
There's nothing you're going to do. Once this guy makes a move, you're toast. Now there's something to at least stabilize with. All right, so in your notebook here, and if you're enjoying this podcast on YouTube, make sure you like it, subscribe. If you're listening, however you listen to the audio, make sure you leave some comments and leave us a review, and you can get one of those mugs that Carl has at Bleav as well. But let's show that mug. There you go. Tell a friend to tell a friend. What are some of the other things in that notebook? Like, if you were to highlight some things, what are some of the things that really stood out to you?
Well, just observations, Bob. I would say number 55, Hudson. And folks, forgive my French. He's the right kind of asshole to have on your offensive line. We read about different fights that he was having. It was some dust-ups, right? Him and Kayvon Thibodeau.
They were going
He's
at
the
it pretty
right
good.
kind of jerk. He's the right kind of jerk. You need that type of energy on your offensive line. Now, you don't need the hands to the face stuff, but he's that guy who will set the tempo for your offensive line when he's in there because he's crafty, he's athletic. He had been beaten a couple times by Kayvon Thibodeau, and Thibodeau was yapping. They were yapping back and forth. Thibodeau went up again, beat him on an inside move. Hudson grabs him and punches him in the back and slams him to the ground. Didn't look illegal. That was one of the more legal ones. He had a couple hands to the face, but that went, I looked at that, I was like, that's the right kind of asshole they need on that offensive line. Because he's crafty, he's going to make everybody upset that plays against him. And it's just the right attitude. Every offensive line needs one of those guys. He takes it right to the edge. And that's enough to get in some defender's head. So that's one of the things that I saw that I think he's going to be good because he actually does have ability. He's Cleveland. He's from Cleveland. They had him outside at tackle, but I think he's a guard by trade. But he's done pretty good. And in the team drills, he's looked good too. Then I look at another observation. Elijah Chapman, he has no power when he tries to get tall. He's a short, compact guy. And I made the analogy, and I looked at my notes I wrote, he needs to be Dragon Ball Z. He needs to be a character from Dragon Ball Z. Just nice, compact, and always punching, staying within his frame, because if he stays within his frame, he maintains leverage. Every time he tries to get tall and try to push a guy, he doesn't have the strength. But when he's down and he plays within his frame, he can move people. He had some really good team reps when I can tell that Coach Patterson was probably telling him, you got to stay within your leverage. And then the quite opposite of that is Roy Robinson Harris, who physically, he looks like Chris Canty. He's a mountain of a man. If he could play like Chris Canty, then he would be a big addition for them. It looks like he's still learning. I'm not sure how many years he's been in the league, but Andre Patterson is trying to deprogram some of the stuff and to get him to play with length. And, when I talked to Coach Patterson, he said for whatever reason, he's been trying to rush like a little person. He's got to use his length to his advantage. And so if he's in there and he can play tall, play long, and I would suggest he take a look at some Chris Canty film. He's a big man. And as soon as I saw him, I said, this guy reminds me of Chris Canty in stature. If he could give the Giants what Chris Canty gave him, he'd be a big contributor.
Yeah, he's in year 9. He's in year 9.
Yeah.
So,
and they're got to teach old dog new tricks. He's stayed in the league long, this long because he can play, obviously. Another one, Bob, and this one I got in trouble for because I was super excited. I just finished, literally got off of my computer watching tape, and I saw something Biz wrote about the best undrafted free agent in camp. And I hit Darius Alexander would like a word with you. And I missed the undrafted wide receiver part of it and just went to best rookie in camp. This dude, and this is, and guys, this is how I watch film. I'll watch for specific things, and then I'll go back and just let the film talk, right? And I'm looking at the one-on-ones, and then I'm looking at team. And I'm like, who is this? Wow, who is this? Darius Alexander is a powerful kid. He's got athletic. And I think Coach Dable said he's sneaky athletic. He ain't sneaking up on nobody. I mean, this guy He's got some ability. The Toledo Zip I'm talking about, folks. He just kept showing up on film, doing something that catches your attention. It wasn't like he wasn't completely disruptive, but there was something that every time he did something, you'd be like, wait a minute, who is this? What number is that? Oh, that's 91 again. He's going to be a good contributor. That's going to be a good draft pick because he's not that far away as a rookie. They're going to refine him, but he's got some power, good side-to-side movement, and really good athleticism.
Look, I know it's only 2 days in pads, and they haven't even played a game yet. They'll play a game a week from this Saturday in Buffalo, and I know there's a long way to go. But kind of like we saw last year with Joe Shane's draft class, and they showed out, kind of early. Like you didn't say, man, I really want to see this Drew Phillips kid or Newbin. Obviously, with Malik being, we knew a lot about him. Like they showed up pretty early, and you saw that these guys look like there's a lot of upside. I think that's one of the things about this draft for Joe Shane. Again, only 2 days in pads and only a week in. But listen, we've been around the Giants long enough where we've seen draft picks come in, second-round picks, third-round picks, sometimes even first-round picks, and you're sitting there and you're saying, boy, that guy looks kind of average. Like, he's going to develop. Alexander, who many people say that the Giants got to steal because a lot of people thought he was a second-round guy. He shows up every practice. Scatterboo has shown up. Obviously, Abdul Carter shows up in every practice. And Jaxson Dart has had a lot of really good moments. I think if you're a fan, you have to be encouraged. Although no games have been played, it's only 2 padded practices. But guys that you're counting on to help your team out of a draft class look like they belong, look like they can play the part.
Yeah, like we've said all along that this team, this roster is improved. They have better talent. But I'm going to go back to the statement I made when we first opened, when I said either this offensive line has gotten better or this defense better step it up. 2 things can be true. When you go back and look at the team field, like the schemes that they're running and the way they're blocking offensively, it looks good. Like some of this stuff, the Scatterboo stuff was not accidental. I mean, he was through at the second level because everything was blocked up. And I was like, I'm looking at this. I'm like, okay, a healthy offensive line, they're moving pretty decent. And this is without Andrew Thomas out on the field. I was like, okay, you got Runyon, you got Eluemunor, you got some stability pieces in there, but they schematically are looking pretty good, Bob. And again, I pull back and I have to say, okay, I have to now stop and wait for them to play against somebody else, right? I've seen enough reps to where I can say, okay, this guy can play, this group has gotten better, this group has gotten better. Now I'm going to pull back and say, okay, let's just look at them against other people to see if that still applies, right? Because once you play against somebody every day, you start to gain an advantage one way or the other. You want to see them against different people now, see how they stack up, right? There's not going to be a scrimmage this year, but these preseason games, I want to see. I want to see how Darius Alexander plays when he's against someone else. Golston is another guy, Bob, that's quietly having a steady camp. Again, he's a veteran.
To me, that's another one of these cowboy. Let's wait and wait to sign our marquee guys. And as we're waiting, we can't afford to keep guys that are good players. They lost Darius Alexander to the Commanders, who was a good player.
Yeah.
Golston is a really good player.
He is. And the thing about it is, it gets kind of lost because we've been talking about Burns, Thibodeau, and Carter. But when he's on the field, he's super consistent. If he's got to hold the edge, he's going to hold the edge. He's a long player too. Right now, he's not a flashy pass rusher, but he's going to be a guy that can press the quarterback as well. My bigger concern with this defense, is that they've got to have a mindset from the first play that you can't let somebody punch you in the mouth. You're throwing the first punch. Whether or not it lands or not, you're throwing the first punch. You can't be the defense that you say you are or that you say you want to be, and you're not the one who's setting the tone. You've got to be able to go in, set the tone, break a few rules, and then let the coach scream at you and be like, "Yep, we got it, coach. Sorry about that." Right? You need to always have. I'm dead ass serious. Like you talk to any of these good defenses around the league, they're going to break glass, and then they're going to get screamed at, and then the coach is going to be like, calm it down, guys. I got to get something done with my offense. Because defenses, the good ones, they will wreck a practice. They'll make it hard. They'll make the coach upset. You need a few of those. You need a play or two of those. When the rookie comes in, right? Don't let him have that success. Yeah, we see you, Rook, not on us. Do it on the second team. No, you're not running through us. Somebody thought the guy, right? Just one time. He is your teammate, but if you're a defense, you've got to have some pride in terms of how you set the tone. Now, don't take this the wrong way, folks. The defense hasn't been shit. They haven't been horrible. But I like to feel that you're playing the game on your terms.
I want to ask you about Brian Burns. Brian Burns plays every snap in practice as if he was playing in the Super Bowl. There's an intensity about him that is really cool. And Carl, I love the fact that he's so into it. Like, when it's not his turn, when the 2s or the 3s are in there, rather than standing on the sideline, he stands behind the offense, encouraging his teammates, barking stuff out, lobbying an official or a coach, "Hey, man, that was a hold or a hand stuff." But it feels like every rep, even the ones he's not in, he's mentally repping everything out. His intensity in the plays that he's not in is something it's a lot of old school right there.
Yeah. And, I keep using the phrase different when it comes to Abdul Carter. Brian Burns is different as well. And he's an alpha. Brian Burns is an alpha male. But when he gets out there, he's got a lot of things in his bag too. And he's one of those guys who will hold his teammates accountable. I mean, the intensity, he has conversations and you look like he's about to chew your head off, right? He's got this intensity in his eyes, but he's the right type of leadership. Again, if these kids stay healthy, and I'm going to pull back on the enthusiastic part of what I'm seeing, but they have a chance, folks, I know they're going to be a better team. I don't know what that record's going to look like, but they have a chance to really show you tangible improvement. When they're on the field and you're looking at it, you're going to say, "I didn't see that last year. Oh, wow, this looks like what it should have been." I think Kayvon Thibodeau has gotten better and better and better. And it looks like every time he says he's going to go home and work on something, he's come back and put it into practice. His hands are really good right now. Even on the pass rush, his counter moves, they've got a lot of different things I love about what they will bring on third down. Now they got to earn the right to pass rush. That's on first and second
down.
If
they don't win on first and second down,
right,
it's never going to happen.
I need to see them play the game on their terms. I want to see them set the tempo defensively. Now, we haven't talked about the inside linebackers, Micah McFadden and Bobby Okereke. They can't get lost in the sauce. They've been quiet. I'm looking at film. You know, there are a few routine plays, but they can't take a backseat to the alphas up front either. They got to be dogs, right? Micah is a guy who can find the football, but hadn't quite found it in practice. He hadn't shown up in practice the way some of the other guys are. And the same with Bobby Okereke. Nothing bad about them, but I haven't seen them, when I say show up, make that play, right? Somebody coming through the hole, there's a thud, right? And again, people are highlighting the one play, I think it was either Neal or John Michael Schmitz, who had Okereke in space and knocked him down as he was pursuing the football. But these are the things that you can't allow to happen, even against your own team. Again, don't be afraid to break glass if you're the defense. You set the tone, because when you got a guy like Hudson on the other side of the football who is their asshole, who's going to counter them? Who's going to counter the offense's bad guy, right? Who's going to be collectively, your defense has to say, okay, we're going to shut this motherfucker down. He's doing too much and he's being too extra. We're going to have to tame him. We want him to do it to everybody else, not our defense, right? The fights, they're pillow fights. They need, if they're going to fight this dude, because every time they punch him, he just comes back with something else crafty, right? Okay, yeah, you pushing me, yeah. Okay, you're going to beat me to the inside. I'm going to pull you down and punch you in the back, right? Or I'll put my hands up around your neck. There's no rule that says you can't do the same thing to him. If it's going to be a fight, y'all need to make it a real fight. Like, give him a reason to fight you too. He's giving you a reason. But you're not like, I need that type of intensity. And it's not a waste of time. Folks, I'm not saying you go out and you do this every single play. I'm saying you set the tone. You look at film and you see what this guy is doing to your teammates and you say, okay, we're going to make it a rough day for him. We're going to make him be the one who wants to throw the first punch because we're going to do so much to him. That's what a real championship and dominant defense does.
I want to go to the quarterbacks and your observations. I've been, Russell Wilson, the deep ball, all that other stuff. I mean, not much to see here, right? Russell Wilson, especially when in a situation now where, you can't hit the quarterback or anything else. He's going to operate on a high level. I've been very impressed with what I've seen out of Jaxson Dart since the pads have come on. He's had some good pocket awareness. He threw a nice crossing route to Zach Pascal. I think he threaded the needle the other day and put it in a place, the only place it could be. I thought that was great. He threw a really good deep ball. And I want to give a shout out to Cordell Flott because Jaxson Dart put a ball down the middle of the field that was as perfect a throw as you could possibly make. And Cordell Flott played it as perfectly as a corner can play it and got in there and knocked the ball out. incomplete pass. It was like one of those plays that when they graded it, they're probably like the offensive coach is saying, great read, great delivery, great throw. And the defensive coaches were like, great coverage, great rip on the ball. Like everybody won on that play on an incompletion.
Yeah. And how about the back shoulder throw by Jaxson Dart? That was circulating on social media. That was one hell of a back shoulder throw. And I think that's the one to the undrafted free agent that Biz had tweeted about. That was a pro throw. I mean, that was an advanced level pro throw, that back shoulder. Great catch too, but like he has continued to get better each and every practice. And then when you listen to some of the things that Russell Wilson's saying about him, he said he's always asking questions. He's always asking why something happened or what should you have done here? What should I do in this situation? So you've got a really bright offensive mind in Brian Daboll, who, he loves talking quarterback. And then you have Russell Wilson. So he's getting it. He's got a tutor and a teacher in Coach Daboll and in Russell Wilson. Folks, you talk about Russell Wilson and there's no, you can't hit the quarterback, this, that, and the other. Keep an eye on this offensive line, people. They're doing some, quietly doing some really good things. And I think this may be what we should expect if they're healthy. They got to stay healthy because their front line guys, I'm seeing some things schematically in the way they're fitting on blocks. I like it. Again, I got to pull back because they're against their own guys now. They've seen enough of these guys, right? I want to see it against somebody else. But I just like the way their timing and their schematics are run game type stuff. They blocked up a few of these things so well. The Scatterboo, and I think Tracy had a couple, and even Motor, where they were on the second level untouched. They can double the nose and hit the end, and it's just nobody. And they double it at a level where your linebackers can't even decide which way the ball is going to go because it heads outside, and then there's this big lane opening, and the linebacker can't even get back into the hole because the defensive end or the nose is blocked at the second level. So, and when you talk about
here's another thing.
Go ahead.
No,
go
you
ahead,
go ahead. Finish your thought. Finish your thought because I'm going in a.
I am too.
Finish it. All right. Here's the other thing that's going to help the offensive line is having a quarterback with confidence. Russell Wilson, listen, the guy is a Hall of Famer. He's going to go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's a 10-time Pro Bowler. He's a Super Bowl champion. He went to back-to-back Super Bowls. For whatever the narrative is near the end of Seattle, Denver, and then it didn't work out for him in Pittsburgh. At the end of the day, after the 5-year wait period when he retires, he's going to get in the Hall of Fame. Confident.
Sure.
He's going to help this offensive line. And that's not a knock on Daniel Jones, who I was texting with this past weekend. We were chatting, and I wished him good luck. And you and I are big Daniel Jones fans. But he never had the confidence that Russell Wilson's resume provides, right? And I really feel like Russell Wilson's confidence and presence and having a good grasp of what he's doing and feeling like he's got, just an understanding, having been there, done that, will also help this offensive line.
Yeah, he's but I use the term again. I'll say it over and over again about Russell Wilson. He is a chronically positive person. I mean, it is infectious. He wants it to be infectious. He wants to infect everybody with positivity. And that is, again, we've read a lot of things about personality conflicts. I don't think anybody would ever say that he is not a positive leader. he's all about positivity, and it's not fake. It's authentic, and it is in the space of football. He's not going to give you philosophy on science or weather, but it's all going to be about football. And he's going to move and lift his teammates up, whether you like him or not personally, personality-wise. That's on you. But he's going to make sure that everybody stays focused and positive and moving forward. And that's something he has to, again, when you, Daniel Jones is not here. That level of leadership only comes from a guy who literally had to beat somebody out, rise through the ranks, become a 10-time Pro Bowler and a 2-time Super Bowl participant and champion and won. That's a leader of men, right? Again, he doesn't give you a bunch of phony talk when he's talking football. He's talking football, and he's all about his teammates. So that's an element of leadership that this offense didn't have. There are quiet leaders, and Jermaine Eluemunor is a leader on that offense, but he's not the guy that Russell Wilson is. Russell is the general of the offense. And then, when you go to the next level, there's Jameis Winston, experience, been through it, been through the fire, constantly going into the fire. These are things that bring your locker room to a different level of optimism, of expectation. I'm talking about as players, not as fans. But you feel better. You feel great about what you can do. And it's not about looking around to see who's not doing. It's everybody moving in the same direction. And I think that's great. But you made the point about Cordell Flott. And I wish fans could stand on the sidelines and watch Marquand Manuel and Coach Burris coach these defensive backs. It's a dynamic that you would be like, Marquand Manuel is darn near on the field every single rep, like teaching, screaming, teaching, holding guys accountable. If a guy's on the sideline, he's not paying attention to the rep, you can bet if you turn to your right, Coach Manuel's just staring at you, asking you why. Why aren't you looking at this? What happened? And then Coach Burris is more of the technician, right? And so once this, and I don't want to say in a bad way, but once the screamer finishes giving you your instructions, then Coach Burris kind of quietly reinforces that. It is quite the dynamic, and it's totally different. And I want to say better or worse, but it's different than Jerome Henderson. This is a different dynamic, and you can see it. And, people I was just reading something where people were saying, well, the next time Deonte Banks turns his head, gets his head around on the football, it'll be the first time. Well, at least he's, if that's all we're worried about with Deonte Banks, then he's come a long way from being out of position and being beat every play. So those are the coachable things, right? If he's even with the wide receiver, if he's in position to make a play, then that's a good thing. That's where he was before that big gap. We call it his gap year because that was what it was last year. So he's getting back. He's getting back to where he needs to be. So yeah, if he needs to get his head turned around so he can break up some footballs, I'm all for that. Scream at him all you can, because then we know that he's where he should be. And has a chance to make plays for the defense.
Malik Nabers got a little banged up in practice on a run play yesterday. Didn't return. I think for fans, whether you're a Giant fan or any fan, each and every year with more and more media exposure and everything else, like, guys get banged up in training camp practices. I was doing my show on Sirius yesterday, as news is coming from all these teams, and so got dinged up. So-and-so's being walked off the practice field. This one's being this. This one's being that. Look, you got to pump the brakes on like everything because some guys return like the next rep. Some guys don't, and they're like, listen, he's good for the rest of it's fine. We're getting the. So I would just be very careful because my phone's like blowing up. What happened to Malik? What happened to Malik? I'm like, I don't know. He got caught up in traffic and a running play, dinged his shoulder up a little bit, and it was 98 degrees with 98% humidity. They had great work in the day before, and it's like, okay, he's got a little toe thing that we all know about. He doesn't need these last 20 reps today.
Yeah. And, and someone said to me, well, why do they have him blocking? Because it's football. It's vital to the success of a play. If he
can't be a good run team
blocking,
if your wide receivers don't block.
And someone said, and the same person said, well, does Jamar Chase block? I bet you he does when it's called for. They got to get in the way. They're not going to be killer blockers, but they just got to be obstructive. And so, that's all part of football. They put on pads for a reason. So he went in there, he blocked, he got knocked down, and he got back up, and they pulled him out. The bigger thing, and it's, this trend is kind of bothering me a bit. Jalin Hyatt has a calf, right? He has a calf that was cramped up, and they've held him out he hasn't been back since the cramp. So that's been 3 days now. You had an Achilles in practice, but these calves have become precursors to Achilles injuries if you don't manage them right. And we've seen it a whole lot more in basketball, but you can never just say he has a strained calf anymore. You really got to take and take great care to make sure these things are right, because I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the training or whatever, but it's happening in not in every sport, but in football. And I'm seeing we saw it in basketball. Precursor. Every guy had a calf. He came back 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, that calf turned into an Achilles. And so
look at Christian McCaffrey last year.
On that. Yeah. Yeah. Calf, and then an Achilles procedure.
Well, hopefully everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, he will be. I think this is an abundance of caution to make sure, because, he's a speed guy anyway. But it wasn't a pull. It wasn't a pull. So, but the cramping, they want to make sure that it doesn't turn into a pull, which turns into something else.
All right, Carl, you got anything else on the menu?
No, I'm looking forward to the first preseason game in Buffalo, and I'll keep monitoring some of the things we've been talking about, but I just got to pull back now, because it just starts to look and sound like you're just cheering for the same thing over and over. I want to see them now. I want to see Darius Alexander go out against Buffalo and do some things. I have no problem with where Carter's going to be. It's just he's in grad school right now as a rookie. So I think he's gonna be good there. John Michael Schmitz. I want to see Evan Neal at guard, and see if they can apply these things. But just everything I've seen in practice, the offensive line collective, I like what I'm seeing, but obviously we have to see it against other competition.
Yeah, I mean they have today off Wednesday, then they're back tomorrow in Shells Thursday, and then they're scheduled. I always like to say scheduled because coaches, as Parcells would say, reserve the right to change their mind. But on paper, they're gonna have a padded practice on Friday, padded practice on Sunday, then they'll have Monday off, and then it's kind of game week, getting ready to play that first preseason game in Buffalo against the Bills a week from this Saturday. Again, if you enjoy the podcast, give us a review, write a review, like us. If you're watching the podcast on YouTube, please subscribe, share the information with other Giants fans out there, and make sure you get yourself one of those Carl Banks mugs. I don't have one. I'm at my parents' house in New Jersey right now.
Well, this is a Carl
so
Banks and Bob Papa mug. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Tell a friend to tell a friend. It's Banks and Papa. Papa and Banks.
That's it. So you can go to Bleav, and you can go to the Bleav store, and you can pick yourself up a mug and sip your coffee with us. All right, Carl, how do we like to end it?
Tell a friend to tell a friend. Bleav in Giants.
Bleav in Giants.